it's not easy, particularly at a time when transgender issues have been politicized. People are afraid of what they do not understand, Dana. This family hopes their story will lead to more understanding, more acceptance, and ultimately more.
That's so true. I mean, that explains basically all of Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro's, like, you know, crusade against trans people. They're afraid of things they don't understand, and they're trying to find ways consistently of driving a wedge between people who want to have gender-affirming care and people who want to vilify them. All right, let's talk about the end of the world. Here we go. Everybody, if you didn't hear about this, it's pretty wild, okay? This first appeared on a Matt Walsh thread, but then Ben Shapiro took to reporting on it as well. Thread. I have appeared on Fox News many times looking for the clitoris. I appreciate the platform they've given me. If what I'm about to say ruins that relationship, so be it. We have to call this evil lunacy out wherever we see it, especially on our own side. Today, Fox ran a long segment for Pride Month celebrating a, quote, trans kid who, quote, came out as a boy at the age of 5. The piece did not simply report on the controversy surrounding child transitioning, it outright promotes the practice. The report says that the child announced a new gender as a toddler. Does Fox want us to believe that babies can choose their gender? This is the most extreme, radical, dangerous form of gender ideology, and it's being promoted on Fox News. The poor kid is 14 now with a permanent altered body, condemned to live forever with an identity imposed as a small child. It is horrifying, evil, and sick, and this is what Fox chose to promote. I know for a fact that many people at Fox do not approve of this and never would have agreed to air radical far-left trans propaganda. But the Fox reporter Brian Lennis chose to do this story, and someone at Fox chose to put it on the air. Everyone involved should be fired immediately. And I figured it'd be a fun time to use the Seymour Skinner meme, because it's kind of relevant, you know? Oh, and then Ben Shapiro says, this would be absolute despicable, insane lunacy if I saw it on CNN or MSNBC. To see it on Fox News is a complete betrayal of anything remotely resembling conservatism or decency. Every element of this video is propagandistic, dangerous garbage. The report states that this biologically female child was choosing her gender before she could speak. This is madness. A lot of intentional misgendering going on here, Ben. Thought that was a no-no on Twitter. The report further states that Ryland's parents began social transitioning at the age of 5. This is child abuse. The vast majority of children who display signs of gender dysphoria desist over time. Not true. This is also lying. This is the feels over the reals, Ben. The facts don't care about your feelings, I guess. The report is absolute horrifying propaganda. We've got mums citing her Christian faith to justify the perversion of biological identity. We've got the radical gender theorist activist Trevor Project stats claiming that childhood transition is the only way to prevent suicide. I'd rather have a living son than a dead daughter. Is again propagandistic sloganeering. There is no credible evidence that transition alleviates suicidal ideation amongst children who identify as LGBTQ+. Also, more lies. Overwhelming amounts of evidence. Yeah, I mean, you can be on the wrong side of history on this and continue to say, like, you know, the facts don't care about your feelings, but you don't really care about the facts, it would seem. We've got Dad, he really went on a long thread about this one, really pissed off Ben Shapiro. We've got Dad talking about living authentically by hormonally transitioning a biological female child. Transition dead if continued will result in biological sterilization and or breast and genital mutilating surgery. Oh, so you're admitting that kids don't get bottom surgery finally. You're finally accepting that one, I guess. Maybe? I don't know. It seems like you're just trying to still fearmonger. This family became famous in 2014 when Ryland, now 14, was 6 years old. Mom wrote a book about her own heroism. This isn't about the children. This is about pushing a gender theory that victimizes small children. So it is about children? I'm confused, Ben. And this is happening on Fox News, where the family is praised for its extraordinary courage in the face of politicization of transgender issues. People are afraid of what they do not understand, the reporter says. But we do understand the agenda. We understand this is propaganda on behalf of the destruction of children, and it is vile. I think this is something that Ben should have taken 2 seconds to reflect upon. Fox News is too important to conservatives to be weaponized on behalf of the most radical leftist propaganda imaginable. Propaganda that aims directly at mental and physical health of children. They should terminate whoever is responsible for this agitprop abomination. Damn. Making it sound so much cooler. Agitprop. Okay, well, let's see. Let's see what all the hype's about.
Only walking down the street, you wouldn't think anything different.
14-year-old Rylan Whittington is a typical Southern California teenager. And the Whittingtons, along with mom Hillary, dad Jeff, and sister Brinley, are a typical family. The only difference, though, in Rylan's eyes, is what this family can mean to the tens of thousands of kids under 18 who identify as transgender.
We put our story out there so people could see that like there's another family out there that is going through what we're going through, or there's another family who's proud of who they are.
Before Rylan could even speak, he managed to tell his parents that he is a boy.
I could just see that it wasn't him trying to be a brat. It was like painful. It was truly painful for him to have to
Surprise appearance on the server. Say what up, Jeff. Everyone go to Jeff's channel, Jeff_Waldorf.
wear feminine clothing, and for us constantly telling him that you're a girl.
And unlike some trans kids, when Rylan came out at age 5 a few years later, he had the full support of his parents.
Initially, there was some pushback from us
Base
trying
parents.
to understand this.
We were confused like most people are. We thought that gender and sexuality were the same thing. It took us a while to figure out that those two things are different, and that children actually do recognize their gender identity very young. Some of them, not all.
But they listened to Rylan and to Hillary's conservative faith.
For me, it's just a deep spiritual belief that if you believe in God and he, created us the way he wanted us, well then yes, he created Rylan just the way he is.
And
Wow. Color me shocked. I would not accept, like, that was a twist. I didn't, okay. I mean, yeah, based. However you got to get there, whatever it takes, I'm here for it, you know? What I think is the most important part about the story is that they actually listened. They actually listened to him and what he was trying to tell his parents.
they listened to families. They met in support groups.
There was a father who was sitting across the table. He says, "You have no idea how lucky you are to be here," which kind of took me back. I didn't at that point consider myself lucky to be there. And he said, our child had displayed this gender dysphoria or this gender misalignment at the same age that Rylan has. And we didn't listen, and we pushed back.
That pushback led that child to turn to self-harm as a teenager, which 60% of trans and non-binary kids engage in, according to the Trevor Project. More than 50% consider suicide.
That for me was the turning point. I didn't want to see Rylan to go through that.
I'd rather have a living son than a dead daughter. And I guarantee that if we had pushed back and done what a lot of parents do, I don't think that we would have either one of the kids that you see before you here today.
Allowing him to live authentically and true to himself and be who he really feels like he is. When you get to know Rylan, you see just how proud and confident he is of himself.
Rylan's story got international attention in 2014 when a family YouTube video went viral, and Hillary has since written a book called Raising Rylan.
I never thought that I would be known for this like as well as I am, but really it's just a small part of who I am.
He just brushes things off his shoulders like it's fine. He moves on in his life, and he's just kind of, I think everything we've been through, he's just like learned to do that, and he's really good at it. I could never do that.
The Whittingtons believe sharing their story could make a lasting difference in another child's life, something they learned from that support group father nearly a decade ago.
I'm just here to make the ride smoother for others. You might be struggling right now, but we believe in you, this family. We might not know you, we might not know where you live, but we understand you and we believe in you.
I never thought I'd say this, but well done, Fox News. It's a really good segment. It was like, that came out of left field, first off. Did not expect to see anything. And I know that this is local Fox News. It's not the national channel, but still, I mean, everything was done with respect, with research, telling a personal story. Huge shout out to those parents for listening to their kid. And, for him for having the bravery to tell that kind of a story. That's amazing. I like that it was coming from the Christian angle as well. I didn't expect that, but sure. I mean, whatever pathway gets you there to keep kids safe. Here's the thing that I think Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh don't realize, that for a very long time now, we have been giving gender-affirming care to cis kids for a long time. And there was no pushback then. There hasn't really been a giant amount of conservative pushback. Not a lot of people deciding to make movies on that. There's no movement to prevent that from happening. But when it happens to trans kids, that's when it's gender ideology, even though it's the same thing being done. It's pretty wild. My local Fox station is pretty mild and sometimes based. I mean, there is definitely, you know, something to be said about the fact that this probably ran during the daytime. This probably was, you know, not during prime time hour or anything like that, but still.
Extraordinary courage displayed by Ryland, his sister Brinley, father Jeff, and mom Hillary. I want to thank the Whittington family for speaking to us. It's not easy, particularly at a time when transgender issues have been politicized. People are afraid of what they do not understand, Dana. This family hopes their story will lead to more understanding, more acceptance, and ultimately more.
That's so true. I mean, that explains basically all of Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro's, like, you know, crusade against trans people. They're afraid of things they don't understand, and they're trying to find ways consistently of driving a wedge between people who want to have gender-affirming care and people who want to vilify them. The entirety of, you know, this idea of what is a woman? We have to watch my new documentary where I travel the world and interview people, and no one can give me a straight answer to that. No one will ever know what the answer is to that question, right? Except for the one guy who was just like, well, I don't know. I guess it's the penis and the testicles. The end goal, the end result of them consistently doing this is to kind of stay away from the scientific community on this one, broadly speaking, overwhelmingly, the stats, the data, the facts over the feels, because again, the vast majority of people, study after study, and any, you know, meta study you look at shows that the vast majority of people do not detransition, and those who usually detransition say that a factor that plays into it is social stigma. And yes, absolutely, social stigma plays a huge role in contributing towards, you know, trans kids having very high rates of suicidal ideation. And that makes perfect sense. I mean, it's just something that makes sense logically, and of course would make sense when you take polls on kids who have attempted suicide and what is the number one factor that plays into it. And it's being consistently vilified by everyone around me, by people like Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh, who make a living of vilifying trans people, who get fucking money to do this shit, you know? But Fox News has fallen, and we're all better for it. It's good news.
Do you enjoy the Serfs but prefer not to have to use your eyeballs? Many are saying this. Well, we've got the solution for you. It's the Serf Times in podcast form, available on most major podcasting networks now. If you enjoy it, please consider leaving a good review and feedback because it really helps the show out, apparently, and it's free, just like the podcast.
To our gods, Xander Corvus and Peyton L. Just, we are prepared to embark on a mighty jihad in your name. To our monarch, Tom Spiker, we are but your humble jester, attempting in vain to get you to laugh. To our valiant knights of the Round Table, Benji Arnie, Tech Tink, Scary Earth Human, Tony, DM Rivera, Resident Scarecrow, Sir Nickus, Mayred, Cheryl Alvarez, Ruby Kelly, Brandon, Words Greenwood. It doesn't matter what I believe, it only matters what I can prove. Egbert Celine, Matthew Scarborough, Stellar Vision, Ariane McCarthy, Daniel Sutton, Coulter Smith, Jenna Tao, Quiet 185, Anna Loves Riley, Omni, Riley and Anna, Poodlehawk, The Tim Caucus, Multimondi, Trevbot, EXE, Brian Ephraim, Lemmy 101, Anthropophojak, Saren 42, Catherine, Ramon Acosta, Incosin, Agent NDN, Violent Orchard, Political Puppy, La Media Panza, Zach Christensen, Todd Buckingham, and Todd Lajeunesse. We raise our mugs and salute our brave heroes off to another glorious conquest.